Hello, it's Simon Phillips here again with two amazing change makers, Nikki Carew and Vanda North. Today's topic is called A Workplace of Well-Being, and I can't wait to get started on this. I know Nikki and Vanda have got tons of things to share, so I'm just going to quickly ask the ladies to say hello to you, and then we'll get cracking. So let's start with Nikki. Why not?
Hi, good morning. I'm passionate about executive coaching. I've been an executive coach for 20 years now, which means I've been doing it since before it was ever recognized as a proper intervention. But before that, I was with Sainsbury's. I've had lots of marketing and PR jobs. I was handling the Mars Group account for all the pedigree pet food. So I've done a lot of background business before I came into executive coaching. I have a master's in executive coaching accredited by Ashridge Business School. That's my background.
Very nice too. So, Vanda.
Well, I too have a passion, and is why I do what I do, and that is to provide people with practical, easy to do tools, and by tools I mean both real tangible things that they might be writing or using their computer, and also ways to think that enable them to live their life as fully, as efficiently, and as enjoyably as possible. And to this end, I've had the privilege of traveling around the world for a few years, writing books and sharing information with people, and it just fills my heart with joy when people come back to me and say, Vanda, remember that little thing you said or shared? I've been doing it, and it's made a real positive difference. And so today I hope we can both share some more of those sorts of things.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Vanda. Right then, a little bit of logistics. I'm actually going to remember everything I needed to remember today. So first thing is, you can join in the conversation if you pop to Twitter, #changemakers, and if you put that in there, we'll get back to you. We'll answer questions. Vanda, Nikki, and I are all on Twitter, so we're happy to engage with you there. And the other thing to say is, please feel free to add your questions to the chat box throughout the webinar. We'll be doing a Q&A at the end, and we'll pick up on your questions then. So, as I say, feel free to chat away in the box there. Okay, I think we're going to start with Nikki, and she's going to get us started on this context of a workplace of well-being. Over to you, Nikki.
Okay, thank you, Simon. So, workplace well-being is a way of recognizing that it's possible to have a virtuous circle of organizational well-being and employee well-being so that they reinforce each other. So, employees are going to be more committed, engaged, less stressed, and much healthier mentally and physically. And so they're going to be ambassadors for your business. Your business is going to be stronger, more robust, and able to respond to challenges better. So it kind of recognizes that your organization is your people. And if your people are engaged in your business, then you're more likely to thrive. And it's a challenge. Achieving this nirvana really isn't to be taken lightly. Businesses are facing ever tougher environments, tighter markets. It's a sluggish economy. So no longer can businesses just chart a strategy and stick to it. Businesses need to have built-in agility and to be able to respond to changes fast. And your most indispensable resource, of course, is your talent. And you want that to be flexible, to be resourceful, technically savvy, and even cross-cultural. So a key to an organization's success will be finding, developing, and retaining these workers to handle tomorrow's challenges. So businesses need to support their workforce and help them be resilient. So that way they'll be able to remain task-focused and connected to the mission that you've set, even through really tough times. The individual's got to develop an inner strength and resourcefulness to cope with the impact of organizational change. And that could be anything from new leadership, new priorities, new technical stuff, mergers, all kinds of major change. So we already know what it is to be resilient. We've had to be. Children are the most amazing resilient things. They learn quickly through trial and error, and they don't let falling off a few times stop them learning to ride a bike. But in adulthood, we seem to have lost some of this adventure, and some of us are better at bouncing back than others. And I want to examine why this skill is important for organizations to nurture and what they can do about it to make it more powerful. So in a pressured environment, it's really easy to underestimate what it takes when constant stress, constant change is hitting us. It's stressful because we're wired to seek stability where we can. We're looking for a constant that allows us to settle into a pattern. And it's really a challenge to be on top of our game during change and not be consumed by this stress. But on the other hand, we do want to be stretched. We do want to learn. We want to develop. And that's the #1 attraction for most people. In fact, the millennials or the Generation Y really report that they want to be involved and respected and consulted in things that affect them. And they want managers that will mentor them. So what are the important things to focus on as an employer to nurture workplace well-being? You're looking for your employees to overall have much more positivity and optimism, to be better able to cope with demands, to learn new skills better, and leverage these challenging experiences into new ways of working. And of course, you want them to be to be more healthy, to be more physically and mentally healthy. So it's a kind of measure of 4 things, and I think you can assess your own well-being in each of these 4. So we have a slide here, Simon. Okay. So firstly, whether people are feeling satisfied with the work that they're doing. Do they enjoy their work? Is it an opportunity for development? Are they feeling fulfilled? A second point is, how positive is their relationship that employees have, how they feel with their immediate boss? Do they feel they have leadership skills to lend an ear when needed? Is staff welfare a concern? And are the staff experiencing this? Thirdly, how do the employees feel about their employer? How do they feel about the organization? Do they share values of the organization? Do they experience it? And do they experience the senior managers walking the talk? And finally, the 4th one to complete this circle is, how does work intrude in their private life? How do they feel pressured to work longer hours? And are they able to separate themselves from work when they get home? So those 4 things we have found actually build into people's well-being. So in an organization which seeks sustainable performance needs to keep on top of these things. And they can be easily measured. So when was the last time your organization did an employee survey and acted on those results? You might notice that I'm saying feeling a lot, feeling pressured, feeling dissatisfied. So it's not an empirical value. That's not what you're measuring. But we're measuring the feeling that they feel when they feel you don't care for them, or they don't like their situation, and they're not feeling in control, and they feel they can't do anything about it. So incidentally, although we're talking really from the employer's point of view here, this evening's webinar, we're specifically looking at managing our own resilience. So organizations need to change, and they need to be keeping on top of the game. So they need to be helping people to be resilient during change. And it's going to be essential for your success. So I'm going to look at how you bring this virtuous circle together. So really, I'm answering the conundrum, which is, how can I focus on my people without losing focus on the business need? So what does an organization need? An organization is looking for a sustainable business. And employees are looking for a sustainable job. Organizations want people who are committed. The employees want to be engaged. Organizations want to respond to new challenges. Employees want learning and development. Organizations want new ideas and innovators. Employees want to be stretched and supported. And organizations want leaders who inspire, and the employees want to respect their leadership. So you can see you and your employees are actually on the same page. They're mirror images of the same thing. And employees that are resilient and have a sense of well-being do care that they make their companies resilient. So if you know the level of your employees' well-being, you can focus on what you have to do to get extra resilience to your organization, and how you're going to get better hearts and minds engagement from your workforce and build organizational well-being and personal well-being. And I think, Vanda, you've now got some fascinating facts about this issue to take us through.
Thank you, Nikki. And actually what I'm going to start off by doing, very unusually for me, is looking at the negative side and then build into, so if this is going on, where can we begin to go? And Simon, if we can show the first of my slides, that would be super, where I call it a pandemic. The figures are enormous, and being married to a research scientist, I'm very careful because it's a very difficult thing to really absolutely measure, but we know that directly and indirectly the cost of the strain of stress is causing a tremendous amount of absenteeism. Some of the figures I've said directly say that it's something like 43% is directly connected to stress. Can we go to the second one? What about motivation? If a person isn't basically feeling well, then they lack motivation. Without good motivation, that ties in with what is the quality of their decisions? What is the quality of their time on task? And the next one is to look at the food and drink and drugs as an escape. And of course, this relates to increased accidents and medical expenses and employee turnovers, all of these costing a company a tremendous amount of money. And on the next one, I've gathered some figures together. 190 million working days lost in a year in England alone. 300 billion spent per employee, 7,500 in America, on costs related to lack of well-being in the workplace. And in China, 33 billion a year on stress. And in China also, they have something called Mask Friday. Remember how we used to have Dress Down Friday and you could go into work casual? That was in my time, when you used to wear suits and things. Now in China, they have Mask Friday. This is when they're allowed to wear a mask so that their feelings aren't showing on their face, so that they can relax their faces for a day. And that to me is really quite frightening. And let me just add a little personal story. I travel, as I mentioned, the world and have been fortunate to do this for many years. And quite frequently, I'll see the same people. They'll come back and see whatever Vanda has to share this time. And over that time, what I've noticed is that they were really suffering. And they were young. They were in their 30s. And I would say, what's going on? And they were taking to drugs. They were feeling despair. Their families were breaking up. And it was because they were feeling the strain of stress so badly. And when I would say to them, well, don't you know what to do? Their answer was in one voice, we don't have the time. And so it was at the end of one of those trips that I thought, can I do something to help? And that was when a colleague of mine, Richard Israel, and I sat down and came up with an 8-minute program. 8 steps, each one takes a minute. So if your well-being program is only 8 minutes, it at least can get you started. Now, what are the reasons that companies sometimes give for not having a well-being program? One of them can be cost, except even conservatively, it's shown that you get about an ROI of 3 to 1. Now, I don't know too many other investments that you can make that get 3 to 1 back on that investment. And it's not necessary to have a lot of equipment and to make things be complicated. It can be done very simply. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time off work. I've just mentioned an 8-minute intervention. It can be done at lunchtime. It could be done an hour before or after work. It can be done in a room that is empty somewhere in the office block. It doesn't need to require a lot. And you'll probably find some volunteer champions, someone out there who's going, I'm really passionate about this. Give me a chance to lead this. I'll do it on my own time. I'll set up something. And to also just to be able to look at the philosophy of the company, because some companies feel that work life and home life are two separate things, but it is the one person who comes together in the workplace. And so even if they are suffering the main strain from home, they are still going to be suffering and not doing their job as well in the workplace. So caring for the whole person is very, very important. And measuring the effectiveness. People say it's difficult to measure, but we have one of our change makers who's absolutely a specialist in measuring engagement in the workplace, which is one of the factors that you can measure. So it is possible to measure it. And how do you start one? Well, again, it can be started very small, very easily to be done. Just get your volunteer committee going. As you said, Nikki, let's get a questionnaire. What do people want? We don't want to give them things that they don't want. Let's give them what they do want. Start slowly. Start with just a little program. Build the enthusiasm as time goes on. Nearly everywhere there's lots of well-being programs that would love an opportunity to come in and share the information. And the other thing that I think is crucial is to make sure that you make it a regular commitment. When you start, please continue, because it's important for people to know this is not going to be another one of those flash in the pan things. Oh my goodness, we need to do it. It looks good. This is going to be, I really care about my employees, and therefore we make a real commitment to this. And Nikki, I know you have a roadmap to help us make this all happen.
Yeah, thank you, Vanda. Yes, I wanted to put all this together and to clarify your roadmap to create your workplace well-being. And there's 5 critical steps to bridge that gap and bring you and your employees' well-being together. We've got some polls. These 5 pointers. We've got a question for you that attached to them, so we'd love you to it'll come up on the right-hand side of your screen, and if you just come up with an answer, give it a quick hit, don't think too long about it, but we'd love to hear your experience of this from your organizations. So my first one was, does your business have clear set of values and purpose, and is it communicated effectively? So this is going to be a clear story that guides on-message behavior throughout the organizations with your employees. So, and tomorrow we're going to go into a little bit more about sustainable performance in tomorrow morning's session, but so you can join us then or catch up with a bit more of this. So it relates clearly to the sense of satisfaction in the well-being circle that makes people feel more connected to their organization.
Nikki, I'm not sure if you can see the poll result, but 100% yes, it's clearly communicated.
Fantastic. That is fantastic. That's a good start. So the second one, coming along the next level, is how well does your organization then enable your leaders to bring this purpose alive? So leaders then need to be supported. They deserve to have this support to be able to become much more of a transformational leader, which is going to embrace and expect change, and then help others to be more resilient. So research now shows that a really good leader, a transformational leader, has more impact on productivity than adding extra people to teams. So we're looking now to help employees become resilient, and then they care that they make their companies resilient. And this is a way of embedding resilience into the culture of the organization.
Okay, so got a result for you.
Yeah.
50 split between development is provided for the leaders but little follow-up, and we're expected to know what to do when being promoted to leadership.
Yes, now that's so interesting, because you can have this purpose But if you are not building on it and using it as a tool to create resilience, you're already handicapping yourself. And HR have got a real role here to steer the agenda, to create creative development and support programs. It obviously starts with choosing the right leaders. These people are people who are going to be engaged in this purpose, not the technically expert necessarily, but the people who are engaged in the purpose. These engaged people are much more likely to be able to inspire your teams and contribute to workplace well-being. And it's not easy. Transformational leaders are not born, they're made, and they do need support, and they need development, and they need it sooner rather than later. If you are trying to create leaders in a climate with great demands, and I know there are demands on everybody's resources and time, but they need to have it done with your culture in mind. So a development program needs to have your organization's culture in mind. It needs to be, I think, action learning programs. There's a lot of evidence to suggest they have much more impact of a level of about 3 to 1. So we work on action learning programs, real issues brought to life with learning. And so really here it's about the quality of development to inspire leaders, not the quantity. And you won't be surprised, I mentioned earlier, I'm an executive coach. Continuing support is a passion of mine. Keep these development points alive. The point of coaching is to go on the learning journey with leaders and help them achieve things, understand things better and faster. And again, it's all about real issues that matter to them and their departments. And you can do a lot by organising coaching internally as well. But it's good executive coaching helps leaders take time out of their operational demands and time to reflect with someone who can really help them focus on the bigger issues. And this is going to embed new ways of doing the business, it engages them intellectually and in the heart, and gives them a really good platform for accountability. So our third point, and again another poll, are your leaders skilled in engaging their teams? So this is really about engaging these people. And do they know the best way to communicate this to their teams so that their employees know what are those critical 3 or 4 things they need to do? So it's about focusing, helping them really prioritize. And it's what's going to make a difference to your organization. It's just too easy to stifle rather than stimulate problems by focusing on the bottom line. And that's really interesting. So 100% now is saying some teams are more engaged than others. And it would be really interesting to examine that a bit more about why some are more engaged than others. But yes, so we don't want to just focus in on the bottom line, which is of course really important to the leaders, but much more to do with the things that are going to be more interesting to the employees. So that's going to look at more productivity and less presenteeism, and people being more engaged and less just people being compliant. I mean, it was very interesting. I worked with the social sciences department some time ago, and we were discussing work-life balance and Christmas cover. And one of the senior managers there declared that it started a vibrant discussion. He said, I can't allow them to handle Christmas cover. Everybody wants Christmas off. I just can't leave them to do the rosters. So I have to handle it all. And another manager said, hang on, I just told them what was expected and I left them to deliver, and it was never a problem. So we had to unpick this, and it seemed that the women's team had much greater involvement and understanding of the whole ethos, excuse me, and was able to solve problems together. The other group was much more controlled and abrogated responsibility. Excuse me, I'm going to have to take some water. Here we go. So, I'm going to mute.
Oh dear.
Right, we'll let Nikki grab another glass of water and compose herself. So thank you for contributing to the polls. I think we've got another couple coming up for you, and we'll just go right back to Nikki.
I'm back. And I've survived. Sorry about that. It's hay fever tickle. So, the final one, that's the fourth one, sorry. Does your organisation kindle achievement? Does your organisation have a culture to celebrate accomplishment? Or is there a culture of dwelling on failure? It's often said that if you hit the target all the time, it's too close or it's too big. And in fact, here at the Changemakers, we've got a mantra. When things aren't going according to plan, like someone has a coughing fit in the middle of a session, it's a plot twist, just a plot twist. So HR have got an important role in helping managers give recognition these incredible milestones of change and highlight and share pockets in best practice. So, failures are just plot twists. And okay, they might require change of plan or change of procedure. I love watching MasterChef. I love it because everybody has a disaster at some point. Even the winners, people who are right at the very end, are declared to be these incredible chefs. Half the time, half their food's been landed on the floor or some disaster. So they've all been through plot twists. But I think it's really important, though, to not let success slip by, because it's too easy. When looking for the next challenge, not to celebrate that success. You can't buy the kind of motivation that people feel when you celebrate success. So I don't know how that poll went, whether or not people felt that they were celebrating success.
How did it come out? Was it 50-50?
And I'll swiftly move on, though.
Yeah, I think the blame culture came out as 50%.
Did.
Yeah.
Knowledge-based.
And the other one, the knowledge-based, was 50% as well.
That's interesting. So, and my final one, and I think it goes back to something that Vanda said, you do need to be looking and monitoring the effect that you're having. So again, this is to ensure that you're not only delivering what your organisation needs, but you're also delivering the hearts and minds well-being things. So we mentioned employee surveys earlier. It's a really valuable piece of information. But here I see on our poll that a lot of people, they've got these surveys, but they don't see very much action. And that's a really critical thing. It's almost worse to have a survey and not act upon it, because the individuals feel that there is no connection for them in that. And Vandy mentioned Susie Dale is the changemaker expert in that, and so you can put together a really effective program. And also absentee programs. Do all the managers engage in absentee programs? Are they schooled in understanding the role of diversity? Do they understand institutional bias? So then you'll know your roadmap is heading in the right direction. So we can see the results of the polls. As we've gone down, it's very interesting. We started off with very positive, and as we've gone along, it's become less and less clear about whether that roadmap is really built into the culture of the organisation.
Mm.
So Vanda, I think you're going to take over from here.
I am indeed, because since we've ended up sort of there, what I'm going to say is, as an individual, you can take control of your own well-being. And so, Simon, if we can pop up my multi-click slide, that would be super. Just first of all, to say that the strain from stress isn't just one thing. It's a combination of all kinds of things that are going on in our lives, in work and in home. And the consequence of that is that it builds and builds and builds. And because we're so flexible and tenacious and basically very, very strong, we can manage for a long, long time. And then suddenly it gets to the point where some quite often inconsequential thing will just slip us over. And there we are, feeling like we're just hanging on for grim death. And somebody said to me, are we hanging on with a rope, with a thread with a piece of string or with just a thread. And so ask yourself, if you're listening, if you're feeling you're hanging on, by how much are you? And whichever one it is, we now have some practical, simple little thing for you to take away and do for yourself. And that's the next slide, Simon. And we're going to look at your beat. Your beat is something that you can check in just a few seconds. It gives you control over you in the now moment, which is absolutely a crucial gift. And it is, beat stands for B for body, E for emotions, A for actions, and T for thoughts. And let me run through those quickly. B for body. You do literally a mental scan, X-ray of your body. What has happened if you're sitting at your desk? Are you tightening your jaws? Have you scrunched up your neck? Have you slumped, meaning that your poor digestive systems and your back are having to work? When you do that body check, then you can say, wait a minute, this isn't helping my body. I will sit up straighter. I will put my head straighter. I will manage myself, maybe get up, move around for a little while. You check and choose to make your body work as well as possible. E for emotions. Check into your emotions. What is your dominant emotion? And quite frequently, people have slipped into what I call the grumpy room, the frustrated room, one of those rooms where they're just agitated and not really feeling very happy. And I have this little mental picture that what you could do is, in your mind, step out of that room and look on the other side of the corridor where we have all of the positive emotions. And you think, for what I'm doing, what would be my best emotional state? And it might be that you are very attentive. It might be that you're flexible. It might be that you're very relaxed. It might be that you're really super sharp to do with figures. You pick that emotional state and go into that room and put it on and say, right, now I can be the best I can be for what it is I have to do. Actions. Here we're looking not at wasting energy. If you're just sending an email and you're happy, it probably looks like this. If you're sending an email and you're not happy, you're using lots of extra energy, wasting it. So just check yourself. Am I using the right amount of energy for what I have to do? And the final one is your thoughts. And this is that little voice that goes on in your head. And I know you have one. And the research says, again, it's dominantly speaking negatively to us, which is absolutely no help to us whatsoever. So check in, become aware. If that little undermining voice is going on, just say to it, thank you, I really don't need you right now. I need the one that's going, come on, you can do it, one more go, yes, you're doing fine, pick yourself up, have a little plot twist, move on forward. Some positive things inside of you to move you forward. So that's your personal beat, B-E-A-T. And on the next slide, we will show you that what you can do is take a little thought about this and build up what is your best beat map. So you look at how is your body when it's really at its absolute peak performance. What emotions generally serve you best? What are the type of actions that help you get through your day best? And what are the thoughts that are the most supportive and helpful? The next slide, I've just got a very quick example of one that I filled in just to kind of see some possible words that you might want to use. Now, when I've taught this to individuals and then they said, oh, please come in and share this with our team, our department, our company, what happens is that just even at this very easy, simple level, people start to support and understand each other. A colleague is having a conversation on the phone. You can see by their body language and actions, it's not going well. They get off the phone, and so you can just quietly send them a message or come over and say, check your beat. Do you just need to do something very simple and just like that to put you back into a positive state rather than a negative? So as you start building, first of all, with the individual and then up and up throughout the company, a simple thing of a well-being bug getting people to do things to keep themselves well-beinged, and then building the well-being throughout the company. So that's just some little practical thing that people can do very easily. Check their beat. Look at their beat, check their beat, and help each other keep the beat that works.
Excellent. Thank you, Vanda. Just coming off the slides there. So, right, in a moment we're going to take your questions, and Vanda and Nikki are on standby, ready for that. Just to let you know, if you have you'd like to have a conversation with Nikki or Vanda about this because of the what's going on inside your organization, you'd just like to maybe start small as they suggested, or if there's a specific program you'd like to see if they can support with, then all you need to do is click there. That'll take you off to a scheduling system. You can book a call in, and as I say, Nikki and Vanda will be more than happy to have just an initial conversation with you, just to see what sort of issues you're faced with currently, and to see if they can support you further. So I'll just leave that there. That's under offers in your window, if you can see that where you are, and we'll come back to that at the end as well. So right then, we'll transfer now over to you for your questions. What questions do you have for Nikki and Vanda? Okay, one there from Jackie. If your workplace doesn't have a well-being program, how would an employee go about getting one set up? Who'd like to start that one off? Nikki?
Yes, okay. I think there's a lot that employees can do individually to start setting something like this up. It goes back to what Vanda says about starting small. You can do something in your own team. You can get together as a group of people, create a forum for your thing, decide what you want. You can talk to your leader about it. You can talk about how you can set in flexibility the way you want it to be. And you can do that in your own teams. So that would be a good place to start. It would be, you could always talk to the HR, see if you can get their involvement along, but definitely start small, build up small, and you can start building it into the culture of your department, which can then build into start growing as a culture when people start seeing the benefits that they're accruing from it. So that's what I would suggest. Start small, get together a team of people, build some forums, have some discussions with people, and start creating some well-being programs that are going to suit you. You can do what Vanda was suggesting. Have a lunchtime 8-minute process and invite other people to attend. How about that, Vanda?
Yes, I agree completely. Just a couple of things I would like to add. One is that research has said that people are far more likely to want to join a program that is stated positively. So, for example, if you've started a program called stress management, there's still a negative connected with that. I don't want to confess that I'm stressed, and actually companies don't want to admit that maybe they're causing additional strain on their employees, but said positively, such as a resilience strategy, resilience warriors, those sorts of things, and we're talking more about that tonight. But a positively worded program, I think, encourages people. I think it was the research I saw was something like 75 would join a positively worded program, and 35 didn't want to. So the other is to look at both aspects. Companies often feel that it has to be dominantly physical, so they do weight loss programs, anti-smoking programs, these sorts of things. And there's also the mental side of it. So the mental emotional programs, again stated positively, which can help, I think would be another suggestion that I would make.
Magic. Okay, we've got a question here from Sue. can you share any information from companies you're working with on how long it takes to see positive results?
Yes, shall I start with that one?
Why not?
It can be really quite quick, and I have had some where within the first week, because quite often it's just a shift in thinking, and it means instead of banging your head against the wall that you have frequently banged it against, you've just got a different outlook, and that can be enough to make an amazingly positive difference. And so it can be very quick. And the really interesting thing is we have a 28-day where you take a pre-questionnaire, you do the process of the 8 minutes for 28 days, and then you take a post-questionnaire, and you monitor what is the difference. And you can see for yourself what is actually happening. So that's a 28-day block, primarily because it takes that time to try to make a new habit start. But then what happens is people go on and they've built a new norm which is higher and better than it was previously. And so from the looking at the measurement, it can often appear to go down because their expectations have now gone up. And that's quite an interesting phenomenon where it's so important to have the pre-survey that shows where they were originally so they can say, wow, look, I've actually come this far. So the answer to the question is from a very short time, and then watch, it undulates. But constantly, if you just do the graph, it is slowly and steadily going upwards.
And I'd like to come in on that too, Vanda, because that's absolutely right. You can do a huge amount in a month. And also, when I used to do work-life balance projects with what was then the Department of Work and Pensions, and we used to spend at least 9 months with an organisation helping them develop new cultures, new ways of doing things, because that required a lot of helping managers to look at how to work with their teams and offer some flexibility. And there isn't one size fits all. So any department will have a different way of looking at flexibility, have a different set of needs. So these things need to be embedded carefully and slowly. So I think on the one hand, individuals can do an awful lot for themselves. They can create their own little well-being environments. But for an organisation, it's important that they embed it properly and look at this for something that's for the long term.
That's great. Thanks, Nikki. You've just prompted me. Quite a lot of people are watching these webinars on the replay. And just to let you know, you can ask a question even during the replays, and they will get sent through to us for us to come back to you. So if you're watching this on the replay, feel free to add a question into the chat box. And I got one in that came in earlier. How do you get better participation in a well-being program? Who'd like to start? Nikki.
I think that's so interesting. Vanda's touched a lot of that too, again, by saying it depends on how you present it to people. If it's genuinely something that you want people to be involved with, and they feel that it's authentic, then you a long way to getting people to join in, and keep that positive stance on it that Vanda was saying. But it also is it's something you have to build on. If you are not getting participation, then you do need to find out why. You need to do a survey and find out why you're not getting participation in it. It could be something very simple, but it could be something quite fundamental, like there's a question people are not buying into it because they're not. A lot of people said before they see the company has values, but they don't see it actually being acted upon. And if that's the case, then that is something that will build an element of distrust in people. So these are the things you need to find out. If you're getting people involved in your wellbeing program, then you know you're doing something right. If you're not, you have to examine what's going on.
If I may, I would just like to add, I think that's where it's important that people will know that there is a regular and ongoing commitment. Because the one thing that I've really found that makes a real shift in habits long term is the ability to be able to go back and refresh and renew and discuss. So when you're doing well, it's an opportunity to show off and speak up and say, you know, wow, things have gone from black to white and I'm really happy. When you're not doing well, it's wonderful to know you can go along and say, oh, you know, it's really been one of those weeks. And somebody to say, I was there last week and, you know, hang in there because it will come better. And have you thought about this and what about that? So I think it is an ongoing commitment where you get both support to help you do better when you're struggling, but then also that you're able to share your successes, because we don't get that many chances to do that now that we've grown up. People don't give us a chance to say, boy, I'm really proud of myself for doing this or that. And the other one, which is a little bit of a double-edged sword, is that people see management and top-level people really walking the talk, really actually participating and opening up as well, which is where some of those guidelines and safeguards you mentioned, Nikki, there needs to be confidentiality, there needs to be comfortability that I can talk and share and it's not going to come back against me. And so those things need to have been addressed, not made a big deal of, but addressed and the safeguards put in place. And then if people start dropping off, exactly as you said, follow up, follow up, follow up. Otherwise, as your poll showed, you know, people think that it's starting and then it fizzles. And so it's so important. Doesn't matter if you change. That's what we're all about, is change making. Because maybe the original idea wasn't the best one. Maybe what we thought was the best thing wasn't. And so that's where we just take a step back. What do I need to do? Where shall I go this time? And that's what makes life exciting and marvelous.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And there's another question here from Nicola. It says, what did Nikki mean by schooling leaders in understanding diversity?
Nicola, thank you. It's a real hobby of mine. It's organizations now need to their community, if you like, is full of a very diverse group of people, and diversity is something which, if you embrace, it allows you to have lots of different influences, lots of different ideas. If we're talking about change making, we're talking about needing innovation, new ideas coming from different places. And if you don't have that diversity, and it's very easy for that not to happen because we have, for example, we all look for things in our own ways, and so I read the same newspaper day in, day out, so my opinions are guided by the newspaper. When I go out and I decide, oh, I'm going to buy a different newspaper today, completely different ideas, completely different viewpoints. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. So it's very similar. So diversity is really important, and if you have a greater diversity in your organization, and that can come from ethnic diversity, gender diversity, it can come from, I mean, just there are so many different ways of creating a diverse community. Your organization, there's a lot of evidence to suggest your organization is going to be reaching out to this larger market as well. I don't know whether that explains that, but Nicola's point about schooling leaders, you need to help leaders see that. It's an unconscious bias that people fall into. I fall into reading the same newspaper. I don't think the people who thought about the Oscars were deliberately not regarding some of the other ethnic actors, but they just see things in their own viewpoint. So it's about helping people understand that we all have an unconscious bias, and to look beyond that and see what a bigger cultural diversity we have out there. I think that's probably quite a complicated way of saying something, but it's about embracing the whole diversity and helping people to do that.
No, that
Simon, we've lost you.
We froze for a moment. I don't think I have a lot to add on to that. Only just that understanding diversity, to me, is about this wonderful thing of communicating and listening and awareness. So first of all, everyone needs to become aware of whether they are feeling that they're in a situation where diversity is occurring. And then the communication happens, because the wonderful thing about a good communication where there's a real listening backwards and forwards is that usually what the differences are really go down smaller and smaller, and what the richness of the diversity is comes in better and better for everyone to have been enhanced. So my underlining thing is wonderful communication, which I think is what Nikki was saying as well.
Excellent. Well, we had a slight plot twist as my connection dropped out, but I'm back now, and I've got a question that came in on Twitter earlier in advance, which is, how do you measure the effectiveness?
Shall I go with that one to start off?
Yes, you go around and I'll come in after you.
All right. And there are several answers to that one. One is that you can, of course, look at things such as absenteeism. And that is one thing that is recorded in most companies fairly carefully. You can also look at turnover, and there is a drastic reduction in turnover being shown with the research with companies that have a well-being program because of the goodwill that it engenders within the company. So those are two hard factors. Nikki mentioned our good colleague in the Changemakers, Susie Dale. She's an expert in measuring the engagement. And this is more of a soft side, but it, to me, is wrongly named because the soft side is so incredibly important as to the peak performance, which is what employers want from their employees. And so how engaged are you? Where is your level of motivation? Where is your dedication to the company? And these things can be measured very accurately now. And so there are quite a lot of ways, along with just a soft questionnaire, along some of the questions, for example, on the poll that Nikki did today. These questions can give you some measurements that can be graded and actually quite quickly give you hard facts as to what direction you're going.
And the only thing I'd like to add to that, Vanda, because I think that's pretty comprehensive, is honestly, for me, trust your employees sometimes. Trust the information you're getting from your employees. They will tell you, if you create that atmosphere of authenticity and honesty, they will tell you, and that's another way. I think one needs to measure things, but I think one also needs to listen to what's being said as well.
Excellent, thank you, Nikki. We're not sure if we've lost the connection completely, but we'll keep going just in case we haven't, because I wanted to share article. So anybody that wants to, let me just put that out to everybody. Sorry. So anybody that wants to click on that. So that was an interview that I conducted with Adrian Pike, who's the chief exec of Enesco, a sort of renewable energy company, and they achieved gold IIP status within 1 year, which is pretty phenomenal and very interesting. Makes for interesting reading, so yeah, I recommend you have a look at that after the webinar. So it looks like there's a couple of people still around, so that's good. So just to finish off, are there any sort of closing remarks you'd like to make about about building a workplace of well-being, Nikki?
What I would like to say is this isn't a one-size-fits-all, and I would really beseech anybody, if there's anything that they picked up on this and thinks, actually, we could do this better, join us schedule a call with us. We'll spend 20 minutes talking with you, talking over your particular issues, and maybe helping you decide where you should focus your resources, just to see if you can get some benefits. I would suggest that would be a good place to start.
Vanda?
And I would just like to say here to that, and add that, you know, it can begin with each individual. And this evening we have another one of the webinars specifically looking at resilience. And I know a #1 topic of a problem for people is feeling overwhelmed. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, that dissipates your resilience. So we can talk with you, we can set up exciting things, but everybody who's listening, begin on your individual well-being, and then get together, share it with your teammates, your department, and build it so that it goes right the way through the organization. Get the well-being bug and start it today.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Vanda and Nikki. That was brilliant. And I can tell by the volume of questions we've had that the people watching live have enjoyed that too. So for those of you on the replay, I hope you enjoy it. Please do ask your questions, and we'll get them out to Vanda and Nikki for you. And of course, Nikki and Vanda will see you here at 7 o'clock this evening. So that one will also be on replay for those of you who are working very different hours at the moment. So look after yourselves this afternoon, and we'll look forward to catching up with you later. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.